Hi, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition, live tonight on the Miami Hurricanes. Talk with Danny. My guest is Jeff Culhane, the play-by-play voice of the Florida State Seminoles. Canes and the Seminoles Saturday night, 7:30 on ABC at Doak Campbell Stadium. He has a few minutes to join us. Malik Rozier, I'm expecting to come on in a little bit, will join us. Jeff, good to have you on again, man. It's always good to have you.
Hey, Danny. Good to see you, pal. And have you
Sorry I
got any
couldn't make the
wings
trip up
yet?
to Tallahassee.
Have you got any wings yet, Danny? I want to see you eat some wings in front of me, pal.
Yes, you will see wings. You will see wings tonight. The owner's away. He'll be back soon, but I'm going to be doing my from here now going forward. I'm
Love
going
it.
to talk to the owner next couple of weeks on that, so it'll be great.
Love it.
Jeff, I know. Introduce yourself to the audience again to just give an idea who you are.
Well, yeah, my name is Jeff Culhane. I'm the radio play-by-play voice at Florida State in my fourth year and was lucky enough to take over for the great Gene Deckerhoff back in
Yes, we love him here in
2022.
Tampa.
And he's the man, and he's still doing his thing with the Tampa Bay Bucks. And so it's been great to be a part of this rivalry series, Danny. It means so much to so many, obviously. And, man, this is that next game in an amazing – matchup between these two programs that's going to have huge implications on the national landscape in college football.
No question about it. I mean, given what happened last week, let's talk about that a little bit. Against Virginia last week, it started well in the first half, but then everything started to go downhill. What happened there in the second half in that game and in overtime?
Yeah, I'll give Virginia a lot of credit, Danny. I thought they played really, really well. I thought they were hyped. I thought they were ready to go. Scott Stadium is not known as, a raucous environment overall, but their fans brought it, and it was a loud environment. They did a tremendous job. And I think in this transfer portal era, Danny, what teams can do now is they can go out and flip their rosters quickly. And if they do the portal right and get veteran guys, you got shot. And that's what Tony Elliott's done. Give him a lot of credit. He's got a ton of veteran guys. He's got 6th and 7th year players. His quarterback, Chandler Morris, has got a ton of moxie, a ton of poise. And they just beat Florida State and took advantage of Florida State's miscues. I think there's positives for it for FSU coming out of that loss. A year ago, this team wouldn't have fought the way that they did when they fell behind 14-0. This team fought.
Last year they were terrible. They were 2-10 a year ago.
Yeah, it was not fun. And so this team fought, and they fought their tails off, and still were in the mix, even though they did not play their best football game, and had done some things that we had yet to see them do this season. So you never want to lose, obviously, and that was not a loss we were all expecting to take. But now you recalibrate a little bit, and you hope this group refocuses with a great Miami team coming to town.
Yeah, I got last week Thomas Castellanos. I've been the first 4 games, the Bama game, then the 2 easy wins, and then Virginia. Last week, 9 for 19, 110, but he threw 2 interceptions. No, I'm sorry, I may be wrong on that. Gavin Sawchuk, 17 for 74. Krumah, 12 for 63. And I hear you're getting your best running back this week. Tell us about that.
Yeah, Roydell Williams should be back. Haven't seen the injury report yet, but Mike Norvell mentioned that, he's getting close. And so if he's back, that's another key piece to the puzzle that returns. I know Jordan Lyle is coming back for Miami on the other side of it. And so if Roydell can come back, those are two impressive backs returning. Tommy last week, Danny, was really good. 18 of 32 for 254.
Oh, yeah, I got the stats wrong. My mistake.
He ran for 78 and a touchdown. He was tremendous. And so Tommy Castellanos has been a welcome addition at the quarterback spot for Florida State, much like Carson Beck has been for Miami.
Absolutely, no question. Another thing I looked at, Jeff, is the total offense, 514, and it was really balanced when I look at it, 258. 256 rushing, I think. Am I wrong on that?
You're correct.
6.3, 24 first downs. You had 6 for 15 on third downs, 3 for 5 on fourth downs, 81 total plays, 2803. But the thing that really did them in was 2 interceptions, and they lost the fumble. You can't lose. You
Well,
can't win the turnover battle. You can't lose that battle and expect to win.
Well, the offense, you're correct. The turnovers aren't great, but the offense wasn't the reason Florida State lost that game
No.
last week. The defense did not play well. And when you allow Virginia to go for 211 on the ground, 7 of 13 on third downs, 2 of 2 on fourth downs, we couldn't stop quarterback run. Chandler Morris ran for 3 rushing touchdowns. You have to be better in that area. Too many missed tackles, and
Yeah.
Virginia really had 3 drives, Danny, of 12 plays or more in
Wow.
that win. And so Florida State's defense was just gassed by the end of the game. It didn't have a whole lot left, and still was able to grab 3 interceptions in the loss. And so the offense wasn't the issue. The offense was fine. You score
Defense.
38 on the road, you should be fine and win every game. Defensively, this group needs to be better. Tony White knows that. That's why he's one of the elite defensive minds in college football. And they're going to have a huge challenge with Miami and their physicality.
Yeah, no question. I was going to get to that next. How are they preparing to deal with Carson Beck and that offense? And what's the most intriguing one-on-one matchup you're going to see in this game?
Well, I think the lines of scrimmage are fascinating in this contest. And Miami's offensive line, you could argue, is the best in the country. I think there's a comparable challenge that Florida State will see to what they saw versus Alabama in week number 1. I would say Miami has better backs than Alabama does, with Mark Fletcher and Marty Brown, who's someone that I know, being at North Dakota State
Yes.
prior than Florida State, right? And so I know that program really well. And getting Jordan Lyle back is critical. But the lines of scrimmage to me, Danny, are big. And Florida State defensively, we'll see, what adjustments they make after giving up over 200 yards rushing to Virginia last week. They have to be better if they want to have a chance to win this game. And then on the other side, Florida State's offensive line is veteran. They've been able to move people around, and that includes Alabama running for 230-plus yards on that defensive front of the Crimson Tide. And I'm a huge fan of Miami's defense. I think that's more of the storyline to me, is Miami's defense and the lack of big plays they've allowed to what Florida State has done as the most explosive offense in college football this season.
Yeah, I was going to get to that point also. Herb Hand is the offensive line coach at FSU. How is he preparing those tackles, Hanson and Pettis, to deal with Bain and Mesidor?
Yeah, it's a huge challenge. I mean, those are the 2 best edge guys in college football, right? According to Pro Football Focus. I mean, Mr. Bain is a top 10 pick, and he's an elite player, and Mr. Mesidor is not far off, if he is at all. And so, I think it's not just a one-on-one situation when you have those guys. You have to have help. You have to have tight ends involved. You have to have backs chipping off of those guys. And, of course, you have to have a quarterback that can move around a little bit. And that's what Florida State fans are banking on with Tommy is, Ruben Bain's going to get one. Akeem Mesidor is going to have a shot as well. Can the quarterback utilize his escapability, move around a little bit when the pocket collapses, make some plays with his legs, but also make some smart plays as well, and not force things against that Miami secondary that is retooled with 6 DB transfers, but all those guys are very, very good at what they do, led by O.J. Frederick, and a freshman All-American. So that's going to be a fun matchup. Miami's defense has only allowed 5 total touchdowns this season, and none outside the 20-yard line. So what's going to give in that category is a great one to watch.
Yes, no question. And I look at it, about the players, Bain, Mesidor, Robinson, Castellanos. But who's a less heralded player for FSU that could make an massive impact in this game?
Well, I think Usman Chroma as a true freshman running back, there's some similarities, I think, to Mark Fletcher as a runner. He's 6'2", 220 pounds, and comes in as a heralded back. Was committed to Georgia. Mike Norvell has said he's the recruit that he spent the most time on visiting with and communicating with by far in his coaching career. And they were able to flip Us late in the process last year in recruiting. And so, Usman Chroma's coming off a game where he had a career best 12 carries, nearly 70 yards rushing. They've been, working him along and bringing him on. And so he does not look like a true freshman. He looks like a guy that's been in the program for 3 or 4 years. And this is one of those games where you got to bring it from a physicality standpoint because, having guys like Muhammad Toure and Wesley Basaint and Keontae Scott and others, Miami's going to be physical. And so which physical, football team is going to have the upper hand in this contest? Usman Chroma is a guy that's ran hard and does not get pushed back often with the ball in his hands.
No, and I think this is going to be our first test on the road, first true road game this year. And going up there, we all know how Doak is, especially at night, especially when they're good. Florida State's a dangerous team coming off a loss. In fact, Kirk Herbstreit said that they're the most dangerous one-loss team. Do you concur with that?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good teams in college football, and I think what we're seeing, Danny, is as rosters change as much as they do, it's a lot harder to get a peg on who's supposed to be good before the season starts. And that's why preseason polls are kind of going the way of the dodo here because, we're banking everything on what we think in brands and we really don't know. And that's been the case with preseason polls. But in the past, you've had a better idea when you've had third and fourth year players on teams. No one gave Florida State a chance to be a top 10 team in the first 3 weeks of the season after last year. Why would you? But
why win it 2-10?
You can retool your roster and go out and get new players and go out and get new coaches. And that's what Mike Norvell has done. And this is a Florida State team that I feel like, even with a loss, is a team that is right there in the conversation as far as being a college football playoff team. If they can beat Miami on Saturday night, they're right back in it. And so, yes, I would say coming off of a loss, this is going to be a razor-focused football team. Doak is going to be as hostile as it's always been with Miami coming to town under the lights. And so it's going to be one heck of an atmosphere. And I would say I would agree. Florida State coming in is definitely a dangerous team coming off of a loss.
Oh, no question about it. They're going to be dangerous. No question about that. Keys to the game, Jeff. What is the single most important factor for FSU to win this game?
Well, they can't beat themselves, and what I mean by that is that you can't have the turnovers in the score zone. You can't, you can't give the ball away to Miami. You just can't do it, and you can't do some of the things they did against Virginia. You won't have a shot against the Canes, and so this team's got to be tighter. They've shown us what they can do. Beating Alabama, that win now looks even better after what they did going to Georgia and ending their 33-game home field winning streak. And so that's a great win for Florida State without a question. But you can't beat yourself. You can't turn the football over. And you got to get to Carson Beck without a doubt. You've got to be able to get to him and fluster him a little bit, Danny. And he has been a great fit in Shannon Dawson's offense. And they've really done a nice job of working him in with the running game and keeping him clean with that great offensive line. But a year ago, he was at his worst on the road. He had 7 of his 13 interceptions last season were on the road for Georgia. And it didn't get better as the season wore along. And so can you get the crowd into it and maybe get a little PTSD going for Carson Beck if you can hit him and force him into some tough situations? But that starts as well with slowing down the run. It cannot be third and short. It cannot be second and short to set up play action. You got to stop the run and win on first down to have that chance against Carson, who's a great player.
I look at Beck and I look at the running game. I mean, we all know people are saying that this is going to be Miami bullying FSU. What has been the mindset this week in Tallahassee for this game, knowing that this team comes off a loss?
Oh, it's still excitement. I think there's obviously a disappointment losing the game to Virginia. Was not expecting to lose that one as a favorite, and you're bummed because if you win, you more than likely College Game Day comes to Tallahassee. And so,
you
and
the
so
ACC thing there.
What's that, Danny?
The ACC.
Yeah, the ACC huddle is here, so that's exciting, and we're happy to have that great crew here as well. So that'll be a whole lot of fun. But look, this is still this is going to
This is
be
the rivalry.
yeah, this is prime time under the lights. It's a top 20 matchup. It's the first time, Danny, that both teams in the top 20 between these two squads have been in the top 20 playing at Doak since 2013.
That's
So
right. That was the title year.
That was a title year for Florida State. So plenty of excitement. Trust me, the excitement level and the energy is not going to drop off because of what happened last Friday. If anything, the fans are going to be even more lathered up to try and help Florida State out in beating Miami in any way they can.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have a gut feeling on how this will shake out, and what's your reasoning behind it?
Well, I'm always, you know me, I'm always going to say Florida State's going to win. And so I feel like in this game, the start of the game is important for Florida State. I think they need to get the crowd into it. It's going to be a full 4-quarter game without question. It's going to come down potentially to who has the ball last. But I think if you look at how Florida State played against Alabama, they got off to a great start and frustrated Bama defensively with their pressure and with the way they were able to not allow Alabama to have any success running the football after the first drive of that game. And so defensively, this team's got to tackle better. They've got to be better on third down. They have to be better across the board than what they were last week. If we see a comparable performance from Florida State that we saw in week 1 against Alabama, they're going to have a great chance to be right there in the mix at the end of this game. And then, offensively, can you get some big plays? And that's been few and far between against this Miami defense. They have not allowed big plays at all and really scores at all this season. But can you get a score, Danny, on an opening drive, which Miami has yet to allow this year, and put Miami in a spot they haven't been in, which is trailing in a game? And so get the crowd into it, get Miami on their heels, and just put them in situations that they haven't felt yet this season and see how they respond from that point on.
Yeah, we're hoping to get Malik Rozier. He just texted me. He'll be in shortly. So he's about to be home, but he'll be in shortly. But yeah, Jeff, I look at this matchup and I look at it this way. Florida State's coming off a loss. Miami's coming off a bye week. They struggled for a little bit against Florida before we pulled away and the running game started to wear them down. Florida State on the road is very dangerous. Florida State at home is going to be a tough task. There's no doubt about that. I really think this will be one of those things where it comes down to who makes the fewest mistakes. I remember a time in this rivalry, Jeff, where whoever had the most rushing yards usually won.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that's going to be a key in this game?
Well, Danny, how about, to back up your thought, how about this number?
Sure.
In this rivalry, the team that has ran the football better dating back to 1969 has won 39 of 57 times in this contest.
That's a good percentage.
And, and also dating back to 1969, the team that has scored first in this rivalry has won 42 of 57 times, and from 87 on, 31 of 39 times. Those are odd variables, but those are trends in this series. And so, and the other item is, the road team has had more success in this series, which is so odd in any matchup, that the road team has had the better winning percentage back and forth between Doak, the old Orange Bowl, and now Hard Rock for Florida State and Miami. And that's just what makes this thing so unique. There's a mystical feel to this game, Danny, between these two programs where you expect the unexpected. Crazy things happen, a missed kick, a muff snap, a blocked extra point, right? I mean, it's hard to fathom and hard to figure out, but that's what's created sort of this mystical aura about Florida State and Miami. And obviously the teams are great, the coaches have been great, and the players are all tremendous and pro prospects as well, which makes this whole thing special.
Oh yeah, you see the NFL. It's littered with Miami, it's littered with FSU. And I look at this game and said, Jeff, it comes down to the fourth quarter. on the road, I want to see what Miami has against a very solid FSU team. But people think we're going to wear down FSU in the second half because their defensive line. We've seen them the eye test, and they've been a little bit. I won't say soft, but a little bit on the weak side. What's your take on that?
Well, it's I would say that's recency bias with last week for sure. I mean, it wasn't great. I would point back to Alabama. I mean, Florida
Yeah,
State's defense
that's the
against
game we've
Alabama
watched.
was unbelievable. I mean, they allowed 56 rushing yards in the first drive of the game and only allowed 31 after that against Alabama's offensive line that has, all Americans and pro prospects across the board, similar to what Miami has. And but to your point, it was not what it was supposed to be against UVA last week. And so I understand why Miami fans would be saying that after what they watched last Friday night. It wasn't good enough. And I would say from a Florida State perspective, I'm very interested to see for the first time a Tony White-led defense that's coming off of a game where they did not play well. They were, one of the main reasons why this team did not win. And Tony White is I tell you, he's been fun to get to know. He's unapologetic about his expectations. He brought them, and for some, it was a struggle in fall camp to kind of understand how things were going to go and what Tony White was expecting. And so I'm fascinated to see what this defense will look like, the edge and physicality they'll play with, because they're going to have to play with that against Miami's offensive line and against this rushing attack, because this is a group that will not back down. They're going to try and wear you down with their big backs, and you can't take a play off. You got to keep bringing it each and every down, because if you don't, the Canes will make you pay.
Oh yeah, no doubt about that. I gotta say, Jeff. Like I said, hopefully we get Malik on. But if not, we'll do this. How do people get to connect with you or follow your work? And if any thoughts you'd love to leave our audience with.
No, I appreciate that, Danny. For those in South Florida that have not had a chance to hear our broadcast, you can download the FSU Game Day app. It's free to download. Make sure you do that. Also, the Seminole Sports Network podcast on all streaming platforms is our podcast. We just released a great one earlier. Actually, it's coming out tomorrow, I should say. It's coming out on Thursday, where we've got some great guests on the podcast with Mike Norvell, Michael Alford. The great Gene Deckerhoff is coming on the podcast to talk about his memories of Florida State and Miami, and Randy Pittman Jr., our tight end, who was great versus Virginia, is on the podcast as well. And you can listen to us in Miami and West Palm Beach on Hubbard Radio. WFTL AM 850 is where you can listen to us in South Florida as well. I got to mention one more thing, Danny. The Keys,
please.
Two stations in the Keys, Summerlin Key and in Key West Tavernier, 102.5 FM and 96.5 FM is where you can find us as well in the Florida Keys. So make sure you do that, as my son Alexander Culhane.
Beautiful young man there, Jeff. Beautiful young man. Yeah. Listen, Jeff, I'm sorry we couldn't get Malik on. I know he was just coming home. Good young man. Beautiful young man.
Sorry, a 3-year-old.
Thank you so much for coming on, Jeff. I greatly appreciate it. We'll definitely have to do this again down the road.
Danny, you the man. Thanks, boss. Thanks for having me on.